Hi, I'm Zak.
And I'm Jules, and we are back with Life After Prison, Getting Out, your guide to being released from prison. So in each episode, we like to discuss a different issue that you might face when you leave prison. And today's episode is all about disclosing your conviction.
Yes.
Something we've all been a little bit unsure about at one point.
Yeah, we're here to help with the big issues that hit you when you come out of prison. And our listener, Nadia, is going to share her experience about disclosing her conviction. So let's hear from Nadia.
Hi, I'm Nadia, and I'm 5 years prison free this month and 2 years probation free. I've just recently had an experience with disclosing my criminal convictions due to applying for a job. Now, before disclosing my criminal conviction, I really struggled with finding out the information around if I needed to disclose it or not, and it really put my barrier up about whether or not I would be accepted or judged or given the job due to my criminal convictions. But now I disclosed them, it actually has shown me that disclosing your criminal convictions is not the end of the world, because they actually came back and gave me the job. And there is lots of information around how to find out if you need to disclose or not.
Thank you very much, Nadia, for your voice clip. It is a really common thing to be confused about disclosing your conviction. Should I disclose it? Should I not? And, I didn't know where to go to find the answer. Some people said something and some people said something else, and it all just got a little bit confusing.
Yeah, for me, I used to just stick to if I get asked, that's when I'm going to talk about it. But that didn't kind of work for me sometimes. And then I went into an interview and I was like, listen, let me just tell you straight away, I've got criminal convictions. This is what they're for, And that was better for me, because afterwards he's like, all right, I'll give you a chance. Cool. You know what I mean? So it varies, but at least we're going to get into it today. And that brings us nicely to our guest for this episode, who is Debbie Sadler from Unlock, an organisation that helps people with convictions into employment by providing support. So Debbie, thank you first of all for joining us.
First of all, hello.
Yes.
Hi Zak. Hi Jules.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do at Unlock?
Yeah. So I've been at Unlock for nearly 10 years now. I'm head of advice, and I'm basically responsible for all of the frontline services that Unlock deliver to people with a conviction. So every day I get to speak to people who have been through the criminal justice system, and I come out and living the life after prison often.
Excellent.
That's a long time, 10 years. That's good.
Yeah.
So you're the perfect person for this. Excellent. So Debbie, like we heard, it's tempting, not to disclose sometimes, and it's really confusing to understand whether you need to disclose and what you do need to disclose at the time. So is there a way to make things clearer? Is there a way that we can do that? What's the way? What would you say?
Yeah, I think, Zak, you said yourself, that for you, maybe only disclosing when you're asked didn't necessarily work. And on that one time when you made that conscious decision that, I'm going to go in there and disclose, Nadia said, that, she knew what to disclose. It worked for her. But this is really daunting stuff, and it's hard and it's scary, and people are frightened by disclosure. And too often they just avoid applying for any job where they think they need to disclose. And so they sort of blight their own futures in a lot of ways. And I think it's that fear of either saying too much or not saying enough that's really quite frightening.
Balance, right?
Yeah. So I think for anybody, whether you are in prison now or whether you've been released, it's being really, really clear about what is on your criminal record. So not just the stuff that's recent, but the stuff that may go way, way back. Finding out what forms your whole criminal record, and then determining what you need to disclose. So those words that people often hear, that spent, unspent. Once something is spent, you no longer need to disclose it. all the time it's unspent, you do. And anybody leaving prison will have an unspent conviction that they will absolutely need to disclose. So be clear, I would say. Find out what's on your criminal record and then try to work out what you do or you don't need to disclose.
Where would you go to find that out?
Okay, so to get the whole details of your criminal record, you can go to an organisation called NACRO, ACRO, and they are the Criminal Records Office, and you can apply for a copy of everything that's on the police national computer.
Wow.
Okay, amazing. So ACRO, you can apply for this online. Can you talk us through the ACRO process and how it, like, what to expect? And
yeah, so I think before you start, make sure that you've got some form of ID because that's what you'll need. But it is an online form. So just Google ACRO, ACRO, and look on the website for the subject access request.
okay,
You get to that page on their website and then it's an online form. It's free of charge, won't cost a penny. As I say, you just need one form of ID. And for anybody that's in prison now, I'd say get your friends, get your family to do it for you because it's a really good starting point. You've got everything ready then.
so would you say, like, thank you for that information. That was a really detailed process as well. Would you say that it's like super important then to really understand your own sentence, like deal breaker for jobs or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I speak to people every day of the week who will say, I didn't disclose because I thought it was too old, so I didn't have to. And from my experience, people don't get refused a job because they've disclosed a criminal record. They get refused a job because they haven't.
Yeah.
You know what? It's crazy to say and it seems like you don't understand your own sentence, but it's quite common, isn't it? Like really understanding, like you might know what you're in for or what you've got or whatever, but actually understanding what that means is
In real terms, in terms of, 100%.
it's another ball game, and I completely understand why that would affect, being able to disclose and not disclose. So
what I'm taking from that is you need to be clear on whether your conviction is unspent or spent. That's like the first starting point, right?
That is absolutely the first starting point. And I totally agree with you where you say that, people don't always know what's on their criminal record, often because they got it when their life was in chaos.
Yes.
So, be absolutely clear. What's on your criminal record? Is it spent? Isn't it?
And
so they're two different things though. So what is your criminal record and is it spent? Is it not spent?
And then that leads me on to another question to that, because then, okay, find out what it is, find out whether it's spent or unspent. But how do you know what sort of convictions remain spent or are unspent? How do we know that?
Okay, so a lot of people get confused about, or they get told conflicting information about things that will never be spent.
Yes.
And how many times have we heard people say violent offences can never be spent, sexual offences? The only convictions that are never spent are prison sentences of over 4 years. Anything less than 4 years will be spent at some point in the future.
Hey.
So is it the length or is it the type, or is it's that makes the difference? It's both, or anything. It's just anything over 4 years.
Anything over 4 years is never spent and will always have to be disclosed. But anything less than that, or community orders, fines, will always be spent at some point.
And what about, so it's nothing to do with the type?
Nothing to do with the offence at all.
All right.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, clear and concise.
Answer. Thank you very much. Can you tell people how they find out if their sentence is spent or not spent? Is there a way of finding out this?
Yeah, sure. So Unlock, about 10 years ago, designed an online calculator. There's a calculator for everything nowadays, right? So we've got an online tool called the Disclosure Calculator. All that an individual will need will be the date of their conviction, the sentence or the disposal that they received. They pop that into the calculator, press the submit button, and it will tell you whether your conviction's spent or not.
Okay, amazing. So the calculator will be able to tell somebody whether their conviction is spent or unspent. And also, if it's unspent, it will be able to tell you when it will be spent, if it ever is. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So with those few key bits of information, so the date of the conviction and the length of the sentence or the disposal that they received, it will give you an absolute definitive date upon which their conviction will be spent.
That's great. That's amazing because, you know, even if you've just got out of prison and you're thinking, do I have to disclose? Do I not? Is it spent? Is it not? You just put in the information on the calculator and you're going to get your answer if it is spent or if it isn't spent.
That's great.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really good to know.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. So the link to the calculator will be in the show notes. So check that out. Debbie, I was also going to ask you, is there something that people can do or something that can help with feeling comfortable with disclosing your conviction?
Yeah, I think that knowing for sure what you do and you don't need to disclose is really key because that will give you the confidence. But disclosure's never easy. And for some people, it's just coming to terms with what they need to disclose. And putting their thoughts down on paper will often help. So we often refer to disclosure statements, which give people the opportunity to set out some key details about their offence, but also those underlying reasons. So what was going on at the time that somebody was convicted, what somebody's done since, so that actually it's their whole story. And that becomes more than just the disclosure of a conviction. It's just a small part of who they are.
So making it a little bit more, I don't know, personal and real and what you've experienced, not just an offence on a piece of paper.
Yeah, their journey.
Yeah.
Their journey, I guess.
And I guess it creates a holistic picture, a whole picture for the employer. That way, like, okay, yes, I do have this conviction. And yes, you could judge me off that, but this is who I am.
Yeah, that's the conviction is a tiny part of who I am. And there's all this other really great stuff that I've done before and after.
Yeah.
But you're right. You touched on it, like it won't ever get easier or whatever, because my conviction will never be spent. And even thinking about having to disclose it and doing all of this, it kind of opens up, not a can of worms, I don't want to say a can of worms, but like, you know, a history and a past that you might not want to address and keep going to.
I think that's one of the things, isn't it? That disclosure will take people back to a time in their life that was really difficult, that they don't feel very comfortable about, and will often rake up really bad memories. And also disclosing something about somebody that they don't feel that the same person anymore. You know, they are essentially a different person now to the person that committed those offences. And that can be really, really hard.
Yeah. But you can use the same disclosure each time, I guess, can't you? Like if you're disclosing offence or you change it each time.
I would say you can use a lot of the key information, but try to personalise it to the job that you're applying for.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that, you know, you're making it pertinent and relevant to the job. But yeah, essentially the disclosure and what you've done and the details of the conviction and the offence will, be exactly the same.
Oh, that's great advice. So for example, within the disclosure, if you talk about how you overcame that situation and whatnot, it can show other qualities that will be connected to the job you're applying for, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think, you know, putting together a disclosure statement's great and it's just the start, but don't just leave it there. Definitely personalise it for the job that you're applying for, I would say.
Great advice. So leading on from that, with disclosure, say for example, like you struggle with reading and writing, is there somewhere you can go for help with putting together a disclosure statement?
Yeah, there's lots of organisations that will help. I can only speak on behalf of Unlock, and we are more than happy to speak to somebody to get some key bits of information and help them put a disclosure statement together. But it's always got to be with the individual. We can't write something for somebody because it's not our disclosure. It's got to be from them and from their heart. So yeah, we can help them. But just a starting point is often just that talking through, you know, what happened, what they've done. And I think importantly, maybe get them thinking about what sort of questions an employer will maybe ask them, and they can include answers to that in a disclosure statement, because that often helps.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. So I've had help with disclosure before, but I've been told like you can do it verbally or you can have the statement. Now, how do you, I know this is, I'm going to throw this at you. How do you decide whether, okay, you know what, I'm going to do it verbally or would you like to read the statement? I've got a statement for that. How do you choose between the two?
I think it will depend on the individual, and it will often depend on the interview, because I think if an interview is going well and you feel really, really comfortable with the person that you're speaking to, it's often really easy to do it verbally. You know, you can use the disclosure statement as a bit of a prompt to stop you sort of going off at a bit of a tangent. Whereas if you feel uncomfortable, then it's often easier just to hand the statement over and ask somebody to read it. So I think people will often go into an interview thinking about, this is what I'm going to do. But actually, it's the way the interview goes that will often inform what they do. Okay. But either way is going to work. And I think if people are disclosing verbally, don't worry about being emotional or getting upset, because I think it just shows who you are and the journey that you've been on.
Oh, thanks for that. That's really great advice. And there are other organisations like A Fairer Chance, Switchback and Working Chance that do help with disclosure. So you can get in touch with those organisations if you need help.
Another organisation, NACRO, they're really strong on this area, and a massive thanks for their support for this episode. They have provided us lots of useful information around disclosure, which you can find in our show notes, including the NACRO helpline number. So check it out.
Yes. And also links for Unlock will be in our show notes as well. So Debbie, I wanted to ask you if you could, because from the conversation I'm grasping, sometimes we have to understand it's not going to be easy. It's not straightforward. So could we just get a quick recap about the little pieces of advice you've given us, please?
Yeah, sure. So firstly and importantly, find out what's on your criminal record, the whole of your criminal record. From there, work out what's spent and what isn't. So what you do need to disclose and what you don't need to. And then think about, how am I going to disclose this? Am I going to put together a disclosure statement to help me understand my journey through the criminal justice system and what I've been doing since I came out of prison? Think about the types of questions that an employer will ask and give some thought to the answers, because that will give people the confidence to disclose. And if you can, and I know this is really difficult, practice with somebody and get them to give you feedback, because what you think you're saying might not be how it's coming across to an employer. So if you can practice with somebody, which I know isn't always easy, that might be an idea.
Thank you. And just for anybody out there thinking that people don't disclose much, people do this often, or a lot of people do disclose offences?
I would say the majority of employers now will ask people to disclose unspent convictions. And if people want to move on from their criminal record, it's going to be something that they're going to need to do. Don't fear it, do it. Because the majority of employers will be asking questions, not because they're nosy, but they actually want to make a really informed decision. And the only way they can do that is to get a really good understanding of what happened to somebody and what they've been doing since. So, yeah, don't be scared of it. Just do it.
That's amazing.
Something that needs to be part of your journey, right? To overcoming that, right?
Thank you so much, Debbie. That was amazing. Thank you very much.
So if you've learned something from this episode, or you've been in touch with an organisation that has helped you with disclosure, please let us know and get in touch with us. You can do this by DMing us on Twitter and Instagram at AfterPrisonPod, or you can send an email to podcast@prison.radio. Or if you like, you can write to us at Life After Prison, National Prison Radio, HMP Brixton, London, SW2 5XF.
Yes, and also don't forget to check our other podcast out. It's called The Sit Down. On here, we're going to have wicked guests from all walks of life, going through their journeys, experiences of prison or life after prison or the criminal justice system. So check it out. Also, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It really helps other people find the podcast, and we want to reach as many people as possible.
Yes. So thank you all for listening and watching. Thank you to Debbie.
Yes, thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for Nadia for sending in that voice note. And please do like, share and subscribe.
Thank you. See you next time.